So are you ready to PR yourself? We'll remove the mystery from all things PR, and we'll discuss everything from our top strategies to tips and tricks and everything that you can utilize to further enhance your brand or your message. I've been in media, I'm a journalist, and I'm also a publicist. I am Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, and your host for PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. Let's go. And welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I am your host, Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, based out of Dallas, Texas. And I am so excited to be back with yet another episode, hopefully to help you propel your business to the next level with one of the things that I love the most, and that is PR. And so before we begin, just checking in with everybody, just seeing how you're doing, if these last couple of episodes have helped you out. If not, or if you want to hear something different, you can always contact me at PR Yourself Podcast on Instagram. Send me your show suggestions and we will get your questions answered accordingly. But I am definitely excited to be putting this next episode out. It has everything to do with those pesky little influencers. But before we get started on that, just some thoughts that I had actually today. I was camping about 2.5 hours away. I'm in Dallas, Texas. So we went out to Marshall, Texas. It was a bunch of just boss women. And we decided that we were just going to unplug and relax and do some real camping. And it was not glamping. It was real camping. Like, shout out to Wayfair. They had these amazing tents that were a little bit elevated, and you can put like a blow up mattress, but it wasn't even twin size. I felt like it was smaller than that. In the tent, there was a blow up pillow. And we were just out there just getting our camp on. We had our camping chairs, just unplugging and relaxing. And the next thing we hear the thunder and we hear the lightning. And before you know it, it is storming like crazy. And I was like, you know what? I'm here for the experience. I went into my tent, I zipped it down, and I stayed all night. And I really just tried to reframe my perspective. And so I was like, well, I'm getting a live, natural sound bath. So I tried to listen to the rain, the thunder, the lightning. And surprisingly enough, I was not scared. I work a lot in wellness, so I do a lot with breath awareness and utilizing the breath to regulate the nervous system. So I really was super calm. And then I had my wireless headset inside of the tent with me. So I put that on and put on a Yoga Nidra sleep meditation by Tracy Stanley. And before you know it, I was out. I was snoring. I woke myself up several times because I was snoring so loud. And I don't know if the other ladies stayed outside. We did have an RV with AC and all that in the bathroom and everything, just in case anybody wanted to go on. But I stayed out there all night. I don't even know why I'm telling you guys this. So before I went camping, I was actually in Atlanta for Sarah Jakes Roberts' Woman Evolve conference. And that was absolutely amazing, as it is every year. I was so disappointed I could only go one day. But yeah, I went. It was amazing. Christine Kane rocked my world. So I'll definitely be posting some memes and some very powerful statements that she said on the PR Yourself podcast Instagram page. So you're definitely going to want to be following, because she tore that stage up and she left absolutely no crumbs. So if you're not following Christine Kane, what are you doing with your life? Go follow her for a little bit of inspiration and a swift kick in the butt if you need it. But something occurred to me. I don't know if it was between Women Evolve and going camping and getting completely rained out. I have no idea. But I just started thinking about how much power, and again, I don't know where this really stemmed from, how much power we give to other people when we're playing the comparison game. And I don't know if I was having a conversation with someone. I have postpartum brain, so sometimes I genuinely, my memory is jacked up. But I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was telling her that, with a lot of people who post on social media and say they're in the same industry as you, or say they're on this perceivably on the same level as you, or you guys are operating in the same circles or whatever. And sometimes it just seems as though the other person is just getting way ahead. It seems as though they have everything together and everything is against you, right? Or maybe you all started out on the same level playing field and that you're doing everything right, but this person is the one that's getting all the opportunities. And so we're constantly, and it's a part of the human experience, we're constantly a part of this comparison game. And there were some things that happened these past couple of days and some things that had come out, especially with some CEOs that are really high profile, that everybody reveres and loves, that shows us that there's always things going on behind closed doors that we're not aware of. And everything is not always as it seems. And sometimes when we're spending so much time and energy comparing ourselves to other people, not realizing that maybe they're just posting the highlight reel, or in some cases, maybe they're lying or because they're covering something else up. And I don't know, I just that. And the reason I'm bringing this up in a PR kind of world is because I see this a lot with my clients. If they see somebody that's in their circle kind of escalating, or maybe they're getting to speak at this conference, or they're getting to do X, Y, and Z, or they're getting this award or that, sometimes there's this comparison, or sometimes it could be jealousy or envy or a questioning of why isn't this me, without realizing that maybe it's not all what it seems. And so at the end of the day, the best way to PR yourself in this situation is just to continue to do great. Continue to focus on your business. Continue to focus on what's working for you. Continue to post your content. Continue to nurture the audience that you've worked so hard to gather. Continue to speak life into your followers, or continue to have great customer service, the things that you can control, and keep pouring into that. And it's almost as if you just kind of have to have your blinders on to the left and right, because otherwise you'll just fall victim into really, almost falling into this well of something that may not be true. And another thing that I thought about as I was talking to my friend about this too, is that way back when in Dallas, I would say maybe 15 years ago when I moved back, blogging was really, really huge, which is crazy because this is an influencer episode. And I did a lot in fashion writing, blogging. I did style segments on TV. And there was always the same bloggers and always the same writers and always the same influencers and celebrities, I would say, at the events. Always, 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 always. And sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you think it's always going to be this way. So let's just say you're sitting second, third row, and you always see the same people on the front row, and you think, why am I getting passed over? Like, why don't they think that I'm great? Why won't they give me a VIP seat? You're so focused on that versus just go there and do your job, right? And you always think that it's going to be that way. And then you blink and you realize that a lot of the folks have fallen out. They're not even at the top of the fashion game anymore. They're not on the front row anymore. Hell, they don't even live in the same city. They've moved away. They've got another career. Life goes on and things go on and people change. And we spent so much time focused on who's getting that opportunity in the present moment, not realizing that a lot of times all of that phases out until it's your turn. And if you can just focus on just doing good, it will be your turn whenever it's the appropriate time for it to be your turn. And whatever you believe in, if you believe in the universe, God, Allah, whatever you believe in, when it's your time, it will be your time. And I feel like we psych ourselves out with the comparison game, or in wishing we could have things so far into the future without focusing on the present moment and just being great in the present moment and producing great things in the present moment and focusing on our brand as it is in the present moment. And still, you can still aspire, right? But I'm talking about in terms of when we look at other people that are kind of in our lane. So I don't even know why I'm on that tangent. And it was just on my heart to share because I really had a heartfelt conversation with my friend. I'm like, girl, remember 15 years ago when it was always this person, this person, this person, and that person, at these events, or was always, they were like the decision makers, and you didn't have an event or it wasn't an event unless they were there. And, out of the 5 people I listed, there's probably only one person that still kind of circulates in those circles, and they're not the top dog. And to think of all the time and energy sometimes we give to these situations, and these people will phase out. And so I would say it could be the exact same thing in terms of social media. Maybe we see somebody pop off and they're a colleague, and all of a sudden their content is viral and it's everywhere, and they're garnering millions and millions of followers. You're seeing them getting brand deals, and you're seeing this, that, and the third. And you're like, now, wait a minute, we kind of started out together, or, we got to do the same thing. Like, what's happening here? And blah, 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 instead of just focus on you. For some people, it may be to speak to the millions, to the tens of thousands. And for you, it could be just to nurture the 500, to nurture the 100, to nurture the 5. And I would like to say, if we would just mind our own business, stay in the present moment, and just really focus on what we're attuned to, what we're in alignment with, what our purpose is in alignment with, everything will fall into place. So that is a PR yourself nugget. I don't really have any PR news. I do, but I kind of don't want to discuss it right now because I'm waiting to see some fallout of this lawsuit that just recently popped up on my feed. And then when I read through it, we'll talk about it. But anyways, so that's my PR yourself nugget for the week is, when you see yourself comparing or wondering or thinking, why not me, and all these other situations, A, you don't know what the other person went through to get that. B, do you have the capacity to handle what they went through to get that? C, they could be lying. So you're spending all your time worried about the other person, and they're fabricating every single piece of it. It's all fake. It's all AI. So just worry about you and mind your own business. And if at any point you move outside of DIY PR and you decide to hire a publicist, and you decide to go with a PR firm or an agency, please, 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 please be the type of client that they love representing, because they're able to do their job and get you opportunities based off of who you are, and not you sending them your competition and saying, they got this, why don't I have that? Okay. And so I think that's huge. I probably have a lot of publicists saying amen, because they know what that feels like to get that. Well, so-and-so was on Good Morning America 3. And what about me? We do exactly the same thing. And it's just like, it's stop with the comparison game. Your audience may have connected more with you on a local level. And if you actually measured it, you probably got more engagement and impressions that way than you did if you would have went on GMA3, because it's all vanity. So stop with the comparison game. PR yourselves accordingly based off of who you are, and everything, I promise, will fall into place. So moving on, we're going to be talking everything influencers today. The conversation came about because I was seeing some things on Threads, on Twitter, some influencers complaining about brands and partnerships and PR agencies, and it really got under my skin. But I was like, I don't want to react and be so emotional, because some of them were literally acting like toddlers, and it's fine. And then I have my friend Cynthia, who I called. I was like, hey, do you want to do a live stream so we can just walk through where influencer marketing is in 2025? Because I'm seeing a lot of these outbursts on Threads where influencers are like speaking their mind, and I'm screenshotting all of them. And I just want to understand, where's the disconnect between the influencer, the business, or the brand that they're collabing with, and how can we make the relationship better, on both sides. So after the break, we're coming back. We'll have Cynthia Smoot of Gangway Advertising, who's also a liger. You know, she's a cross between a lion and a tiger because she's a publicist, but she's also a journalist and she's also an influencer. So she gets all the spectrums of it. And then we have Zach Wilson, who's with Elite Talent Advisors, also here in Dallas, Texas. He manages influencers. He's an influencer himself, so he understands both sides of it. And then there's me, who I'm the publicist. I'm a journalist, but I'm also an influencer as well. But I love working with influencers, and I get my feelings hurt when y'all just be talking recklessly about brands on social media. And so we're going to have that very candid discussion. We actually live streamed it on LinkedIn. And so this is the replay. And I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts and ideas. So influencer marketing 2025, influencers and brands, where are we? And we're going to tackle that right after we get back from the break. So keep it locked in.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
In our own way, we'll be in a room together, performing together and having our moment, the moment I've always wished for. I was like, man, I just wish we had our moment, and so with God and the power of the mind, and putting all of these pieces together, this day was ordained to be so.
Aaliyah's new track, Gone, featuring Tank, is now available on all streaming platforms. The song debuted on May 2nd on BLK Stream and is currently number 11 on the Billboard Adult R&B Airplay chart. Starting today, you can download the Soapbox app via MetaQuest and have a full immersive experience featuring Tank as a life-size hologram performing in a visually rich 3D environment accompanied by archival footage of Aaliyah from her legendary career. Again, downloading the Soapbox app and watching the new song with Aaliyah featuring Tank, Gone. So I just want to say hello. Welcome, everybody. And then when they all come in, we'll also have some folks commenting, I'm sure. But I just want to introduce my special guest today. I have Cynthia Smoot, who's been a dear friend on the scene, in the scene, PR influencer, the girl about town, joining us today for a very special discussion on the truth about these dadgum influencers. So welcome, Cynthia.
Hello, happy to be here.
And then, of course, I needed to bring in the expert. And Zach, I cannot remember how we met, but it's many years ago. And he specializes in working with influencers, connecting them with brands, making sure that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So here to discuss maybe some things we haven't considered on the brand and the influencer side, I have Zach Wilson with Elite Talent Management. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. We met when I was like an intern for Pear Technologies, when they were like trying to
Pear.
I was like events and influencers at the same time, and then COVID happened. So you were there during our pivot.
Do you remember Pear, Cynthia? PAIRR, when they were kind of popular in Dallas?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Okay, so we were all a part of that. We were all part of the magic. So I wanted to have this discussion today because I feel like the scope of what influencer marketing has become and what it used to be, it's just ever changing, evolving, with technology. The expectations of what influencers want from brands and what brands want from influencers oftentimes do not match. And and I feel like there's small businesses or particularly entrepreneurs who want to utilize influencers who don't understand what influencers want. And then there's influencers who want these partnerships with brands and not really understanding the needs of the brands. And so I figured, let's just figure out first, where are we in the industry back from where it started, which was blogging. And I'm going to blog about what I love. And now it's, in my opinion, pay me, pay me, pay me, pay me. If you don't pay me, I'm not posting about your stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas before it was like, you just blogged about it and you posted it because you genuinely loved it. But here we are. It seems to be all about the coin. So from both of your perspectives, where do you feel like we're at as far as influencer marketing, or perhaps how you've seen it transition over the last couple of years? I'll start with Cynthia and then we'll move to you, Zach.
Perfect.
Well, if I had to define the current state of influencer marketing in 2025, I would use one word and it would be necessary. I pulled a couple of stats for today's conversation and I thought they were pretty interesting. In 2025, influencer marketing is projected to reach $33 billion, with 86% of U.S. marketers partnering with influencers. That's a pretty big number. According to recent research, as much as 78% of TikTok shoppers discover products through influencers. So clearly, this is a method of advertising that isn't going anywhere. It's only getting bigger. And I think the burden of how do we put all the pieces together really falls to the agency, because your clients, the brands, are just looking at you to help connect them to the right people. And then the influencers are not always the most business savvy, but they're content creation savvy. And so it really falls to the agency, I feel like, to sort of be that connector and sort of educate on both sides so that everybody ends up happy.
That's great. And I was not aware of the statistics. It seems like they've increased dramatically. And so that's good. Because I think a couple of years ago, I was like, influencer marketing will probably go out of style. And boy, am I wrong. Boy, am I wrong. Zach, where do you see us right now?
I'm right there with Cynthia. It's definitely something that has completely evolved and is like no longer optional. Like brands, if you want to grow, if you want to get their product in the hands of like real consumers, influencer marketing is one of the best ways to go. Which going through even some of the questions that you asked me, I'm so excited to even just answer, because there is so much like miscommunication between the brand and the influencer. And that's why you see such mixed signals, because you're hearing sirens from influencers on Threads and, LinkedIn and X and all this stuff about how they're not getting paid. But then you hear that there's $33 billion in this industry. So you're like, who is all of that going to? And so I'm excited to even talk more about like where they're allocating a lot of that budget, because I've seen a lot just where I am in the space and where I have been in the space. I've seen where they put money and what kind of influencers that they want. So I think that is kind of where I would stand.
Well, let's just keep on the money train then. I mean, if there's, give me the stat again, Cynthia. Did you say it was 33 billion? What was it?
$33 billion will be spent on influencer marketing in 2025, and 86% of U.S. marketers, brands, will partner with influencers at some point.
So where do we think the mishap is? Because clearly, like the stats are showing, the money is there. So is it a matter of, probably from the influencers' perspectives, they think that the businesses are being cheap? Or are we not? Where is the money going? Did they not reallocate the advertising budget? Like where is the mishap? Because there are, and I will say there are brands out there that do want content creators to come and do things for them, and they aren't fairly compensating them for their time or for editing and the things of that nature. So where do we think what's happening on the money end?
Well, I think you can look at that figure of $33 billion and it can be a little bit misconstrued, because I think you have to realize, like, are we talking about brands like Nike, Coca-Cola, Southwest Airlines, McDonald's, those kind of brands? Or are we talking about Leah, like the clients you and I have, which are small mom and pop restaurants, an independent clothing boutique in one location in a city, like there's a drastic difference in the kind of budgets these people have. And so a lot of times, like most of my clients, the only money they're allocating towards marketing is for PR. There is no set budget for marketing, whether it's print, radio, TV, influencer. They're sort of dropping it all into my bucket and then telling me, go figure out ways to get our brand talked about. And if I feel like we need to allocate funds, it's going back to the client and saying, hey, I need you to come up with $5,000 to $10,000 for this promotion. And here's how I think we should spend it. We should do a print ad here, a couple of influencer partnerships here, and sort of creating, whatever I feel like this campaign or this promotion should be around whatever the initiative is. But I think that 33 billion can be misleading when you're talking about depending on the level of content creator or campaign you're talking about. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I have seen a huge influx in wanting performance-based content. So they'll pay us $2,000, $3,000 for one video, and then they'll take that and they will run ads on it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And that's where I've seen a lot of my brand partners pour in money. And that's where they're saying they're working with influencers because it's user-generated content. And so I like to tell a lot of my creators, in any way, shape, or form, like if you can take the gifting from the brand and turn it into something really cool that's organic, it fits who you are, and then run with it, then these brands will start to realize, oh, my ad spend is worth it because they're already pushing this out for me. And then they're going to add more ad spend behind that, paying the creator double the amount of what they're doing, putting behind their Google ad spend. So a good example of that is I have a creator, one of our biggest clients right now is Suit Supply. And I just told him at the beginning of the year, hey man, just run in there, shoot a vlog style video. It did really well. They came back, they're like, Zach, we want to use this video. So I was like, hey, well, that's going to cost you $1,500 for 30 days. Easy. They wrote a check for that. Then after those 30 days, they're like, this is doing really well for us. We want to put more money behind the video. How much is it going to cost for 60 days? So now that's $3,000 on top of that $1,500. Then they did another 15 days and now they want to buy the video. So like, that's where they're pulling all of that money is through these creators who have the personality, who aren't just doing these like basic unboxing, little effort videos. They're paying people who want to like go out and like really make brand awareness and a difference for these brands, if that makes sense. And you see that all over Dallas, like some of these restaurants with some of these TikTokers, they just do so well and they love going in there because it's like a genuine, community that they've built. And, now they're partnering with some like the major food groups out here, which is amazing.
I want to understand that a little bit more. So when you say performance-based, is it that do you have a flat fee for the influencer to create the content? And then if it performs well, when you boost it or you make an ad out of it, then you pay them more? That's how that works? Okay, I wasn't aware of that type of arrangement.
Yeah, so
I'm not big enough for that, Cynthia.
Well,
no,
I'm thinking,
Leah, you are.
From a client perspective, wouldn't it have been so much smarter for them to go, Leah, we're going to pay you $3,000 to go in this video, and now we own this video because we just bought it from you. Yeah. Now your client has basically just paid 2 or 3 times more what they could have had they just negotiated that up front for the content.
So that's where things kind of get misconstrued. And there was a question about that earlier is like the client isn't paying for the video. They're just paying to content license the video. So they can only use it for a certain amount of days. So to own the rights to the video, that's what we call as perpetual rights. And that's when they will pay a pretty hefty check for that. And you're right. They should just do that up front, but they don't because they don't realize from the beginning that this video might do well. So it's just kind of like a gamble. But one of my specific creators, I just know how he is. He's a natural model and does a lot of commercial edits anyways. So it's like they would reuse his likeness anyways, if that makes sense.
I have not heard of that. Like that's new. So licensing. Okay.
Yeah. Content licensing, paid usage, like all of that. Like I tell creators, like that is like your underlying revenue right there. It really is. Brand deals go up and down. But if you want brands to like continue to pay you, it's like using what they give you to create content and doing it well, then they'll come back to you and be like, hey, we want to whitelist this. That's called paid usage. And then that's when you see the ads on your stories or, interrupting little things that you see, like that's called paid usage.
Wow. Cynthia, what do you think about that? Because I'm telling you, this is the first time I've heard of the licensing.
Not the first time I've heard of it. I think it is, it depends on what level we're talking about. I think when you're talking about small businesses, and then it's like you work up to the point where you're like, now I'm doing well enough that as a content creator, that I feel like I need an agent to help me. Your agent's then negotiating these sorts of brand deals that Zach's talking about with larger companies. But when you're just talking about like, hey, there's a cute boutique in this shopping center around the corner from my house, and they just opened, and I'd love to strike up a partnership with them. More than likely, they're going to be like, well, we'll give you a couple of outfits a month if you'll, it's like you start small and then you're working up to the level that Zach's talking about.
So let's talk about the small, because that used to be good enough, where XYZ boutique that maybe you shopped at, where they gave you a couple of outfits in exchange for, social media posts, taking a picture in the middle of the street, or, risking your life for an outfit. I used to get so annoyed at New York Fashion Week when it was like they were all in the middle of the street and all the taxis are whizzing by. And I'm like, you're going to die for a picture. Okay, whatever. But where are we at today? Because that's no longer acceptable when it used to be that was good enough. So what are the most common mistakes now that we're seeing when brands are approaching influencers, because saying, hey, I'm going to give you this in exchange for outfits, unboxing, or whatever, that's not good enough. And I think for some of the smaller businesses, the offense is that maybe they just don't understand that influencer marketing, the influencer is a business. Maybe there's a level of disrespect there. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think 10 years ago, it wasn't a business. And so, this industry is still fairly new. And so I think 10 years ago, it was one thing, and today it is something completely different. And I think it's just been this gradual evolution and growth that we've seen where, for the content creators who started, 10 years ago, you were just happy to get, walk into a boutique and they gave you $500 worth of clothes and you were like, this is amazing. Nowadays,
that was me.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, I think people got savvy to the fact that they could charge. And then that started, it's sort of been this slow evolution of like, what can be done with the space. I still think there is overall the thought of this, 80-20 rule where you want to have a percentage of your content that is organic. Because if you're only doing paid partnerships, then that doesn't become fun for your followers if they just know that every single thing you're talking about it because you got a check. So I feel like, there is an advantage to working with small businesses because those are the kind of places where it's like, and you know this, Leah, because you just opened a steakhouse and I saw you had 100 influencers in there. I know you didn't pay them all, but they were happy to come for a steak dinner. So there are lots of people that are still doing stuff for free because it's like, guess what? I got this invitation to this hot new restaurant and I'm happy to take my husband in there and get a free steak dinner and see and be seen and get some fun content. There is plenty of that still happening.
I think the funny thing was there were, and Zach, I would love to get your opinion on this too. There were the influencers that straight up was like, here's my media kit, paid partnership only, right? And some of their accounts are listed as like Dallas's top X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? And so there was a part of me that was like, but is that genuinely authentic if all of your top, what you're saying is the top of your list are all paid? So it's not necessarily the top, it's the people that are paying you for the content. And then they would see all their friends at the restaurant and then circled back like, oh, well, can we still get in? We're seeing everything and it actually looks good. And so I'm like, well, I struggle with this so much because I'm like, yeah, it's disingenuous. It's not top anything because your whole feed is paid. And then you want to come in here after you see all your friends here. And I'm low key kind of like salty with you because you didn't want to come here before just on the strength of like your account reviews this. I struggle with this so much, clearly.
Listen, I don't have a problem with people asking for money. I mean, if being a content creator is truly your full-time job, then at some point, free lipsticks are not paying your mortgage. So you're looking for cash, and I get that. But I also think you have to sort of take into consideration the opportunities and invitations that are coming your way and think, what is going to organically be of interest to me that is going to help my engagement with my audience? And maybe I get paid or maybe I don't. Or here's a good example. I had a content creator who just came into a restaurant of mine. I knew she literally lived within a mile of this place. And I reached out and said, hey, I've got this new client. It's a small place. We're trying to help get some attention for them. Would you want to take your family in for brunch and let us host you? And she was like, sure, happy to. Do you a favor, no problem. Like, because it was right around the corner from their house. They went in there and had such a great time. Her content was so amazing that now my client, kind of like what Zach was talking about, my client has now gone back and be like, hey, so what if we had them come in like once every 4 to 6 weeks and we could pay them? How much would that cost? So now, because of the organic content that they did, which was genuine and authentic, and the whole time she's saying, this place in my neighborhood and it's so great, and look, the kids can play here, and the food, and they do this. Well, now it seems like it's a fit. We've sort of tried each other on, and the client's like, she's a good fit for us. And all of her core audience lives within 5 miles of our location. Let's now see if we can pay her to become more of an ongoing partner. Mm-hmm. And so I do think, sometimes there's not money in the beginning, but there can be money down the road. And totally. What Zach was saying with your suit supply client, there was a little bit of money that's now turned into a lot of money because it turned out that partnership was a good fit.
Mm-hmm. I completely back that. And I think that is where you see the divide in influencer marketing today. At least I do, is you see the snotty kind of, I deserve to be paid to go to an event kind of influencer versus the ones who are hungry. That's like, I know that this is a networking event for me. I get to go and meet Leah. I get to go and meet Cynthia and meet their clients. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I try to inform my creators. It's like, it's not about being paid to go to an event. They're not asking you to promote their product. They're asking you to come and network and be invited to their product, get to know the product at the end of the day. And so I think that goes along with what you were saying, Cynthia. It's like, it becomes more organic to where you get to know the brand. And once you know the brand, then you can go home and post about the brand. If you like it, your audience vibes with it, then you build that organic relationship versus trying to force people, to like this product. I tell all of my creators this because I get wish lists nonstop of brands that they have no business working with whatsoever. And I'm like, have you sold a Gucci palette before? Has that ever been posted on your channels? You know what I mean? So you want me to go ask Gucci for $1,000 to pay you, and you have never
support the brand.
Exactly. And I break it down to them like that, so they understand, I can't just run to these people and say, pay me all this money, and you have no relationship with them. You haven't attended anything. You don't know their PR person, but you want $1,000. That doesn't make sense. You're not paying them and I'm not paying them. So yeah. And that's a common mistake that I see often, is that even with brands, is that they end up choosing the wrong influencer because they feel like, oh my gosh, this other brand's working with influencer, I need to also, let me just pick whoever has the most following and not review anything. You know what I mean? Not review their most recent reels. What you were saying earlier, Leah, the most recent paid partnerships. Are you doing paid partnerships and just trying to collect, all this cash, or is this organic and it makes sense for you to utilize my product? So, very, very common mistake there.
We definitely have a comment from LinkedIn for Cynthia. So looks like people are loving this discussion. And I just want to piggyback off of what Cynthia says. Sometimes my clients will just give me the budget and say, I have 30,000 in advertising. We trust you, just do whatever you want. And it may have started off with a free thing of engaging folks. And then all of a sudden I get the pot of money to decide what I want to do with it. But if I got snubbed, or maybe like you kind of acted a certain type of way, then like when I do get that money to give somebody 2,000, I've given some as much as 2,500 and 4,000 to do campaigns. I'm going to go with the ones that believed in the brand, that followed the brand, that came to the event or the preview when I invited them to the preview, versus the person that immediately, when I'm just trying to get to know you, it's like, boom, here's my media kit.
Right.
It's kind of,
I tell my creators, like, this is your first impression with the brand, whether it's an event or gifting. Like, if this is my first impression at a business meeting, I want it to be the best first impression ever, because the first, 30, 45 seconds is, the most important part. And it's like, if you cannot go and shake someone's hand or promote the product in some way, shape, or form that it's organic, not giving them an entire video about the product, but like implementing it in your daily get ready with me or whatever it looks like, you know what I mean? To where it's secondary to what's actually happening in the video. That's where you see a lot more success in this space.
I'll tell you who's really good at that is Courtney Kerr. She'll be like, I left all my makeup at home and I just arrived here on vacation and I had to go to Walmart and I bought all of this from Walmart and let's see how this face comes together. And before you know it, she's named all the products, she's done everything. And I've literally sat and watched the whole video to see her do her entire face. And she sold me on all the Walmart products, but it didn't feel like, she was telling me. So I agree.
So Leah, I was actually going to use Courtney in a specific example. So if you don't mind.
Hey, Courtney, we love you. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Currently, I think this kind of goes into when we're talking about changes in the industry and sort of the growth we've seen over the last 10 years. One of the things I feel like I'm seeing is seeing that there is sort of we're seeing the field sort of start to divide into two groups. And the difference between an influencer and a content creator, because each offers a different sort of set of advantages. Initially everybody was an influencer. That was the term everybody used. Now in a recent poll, only 6% of people want to be called influencers. 94% actually prefer the term content creator. And the difference is that an influencer is somebody who is best thought of as personalities, hawking content, like a Kylie Jenner. She is a personality, a sports figure. They are personalities who are presenting you with products, versus a content creator is someone more like Courtney Kerr, who is people who are known not so much for who they are, but for what they do. So she is educating you about brands. The focus is not necessarily on her and look at me and where I'm going and what I'm doing. She's not necessarily showing you her every move in her day, but what she's doing is I'm going to show you these products and talk about why I use them. And then, so I think there is we're starting to see more of a division between these two categories. And for some brands, they want to align with an influencer. That's a very different kind of partnership versus a content creator who's going to be somebody who can educate people on your campaign. Two sort of different ways to go about it.
Ooh, yeah, that's so good.
I agree with you. I see an influencer more as someone who's like driving sales, someone that's like on an LTK or a ShopMy. They have like a storefront page where they're constantly pushing people, to buy product. I see that kind of person being an influencer, whereas like a content creator is someone who has their own kind of aesthetic, has their own kind of style that they're constantly, showing something that's creative about them. They've created something in this space versus pushing a brand on top of them. And then brands want to work with those people, those content creators, to implement and get more brand awareness, have their brand seen more. Whereas I've seen brands work with influencers per se to help drive more KPI or ROI, ROAS, whatever they're looking for. But I see that as like a Danny Austin, someone that's like a huge influencer, Monet McMichael. They're all great. You know what I'm saying? And anything that they post or push out there, you know what I mean? People, they'll sell out immediately. But a content creator, they want these content creators to drive sales immediately, and they don't get that. And they're like, why are you, but we want to use your video. Your video is still good, but you don't drive me any sales. You know what I mean? So there's a huge kind of another kind of misconception there as well.
I think the other newest term, I don't know if that was on your list too, Cynthia, is I'm a storyteller. So now there's a division in the content creators now saying I'm more into brand storytelling. So I'd be curious to see how many don't want to, that are now identifying as that versus one or the other. But before we move on, I've got a couple of questions from LinkedIn. This is a long one. Cynthia, how have you navigated the shift from traditional media, paid journalists who are accustomed to paying for their own meals, experiences, to the influencer mentality of them being unwilling to work for free, as y'all have briefly covered? I found myself having to send 3 sets of releases, one to the traditional media, another with an invitation for trade, and a third for paid opportunities. So this seems to be someone in the industry, quite possibly doing what we do, Cynthia, maybe PR marketing, who sends 3 different releases for their clients.
Well, yeah, so she's right. They are, or he is right. They all have to be handled differently because they're completely different subsets. Sending a traditional, like, let's just say it's a restaurant opening, right? That's a release you're going to send out in advance to your journalist, letting them know, like, hey, I've got this client, they're opening, here's this, are you interested in coming in advance to check out the restaurant? Or, the thing is with journalists, like if a magazine wants to send their food editor in, they aren't going to tell you. They're just going to come in and they're going to pay for it. And then that journalist is going to go back and submit the receipt for reimbursement. So are you talking about having a food editor come in to review the restaurant so that you end up with a feature story, in a magazine? Because that is completely different than working with a content creator. So they're just completely different campaigns. So for me, I'm not even viewing traditional journalism in this conversation because we're talking about how to best work with influencers, which to me is like, put on the blinders, because that has nothing to do with traditional journalism. It is completely separate how you handle them. Now, I will say, again, it's like, I think what we're also starting to see, or what my agency is starting to do with regards to influencers, is kind of the same way that we might view traditional journalism. The same, you've got your A list, your B list, your C list. And so
what list am I on, Cynthia? Let's just go ahead and get it on out there. So, for that, your A list, the people who they want to be the first one in the door, they want to have the exclusive. Those are the 2 or 3 or 4 people that we might invite in before the restaurant even opens, to say, like, we're opening in 2 days. Do you want to come in advance? We can take you in the kitchen, show you the things, let you film your stuff. Then we have the grand opening party where we invite 50 plus influencers and say, hey, we're having a grand opening with past bites. We'd love you to come in and see it. That's the sort of CNBC networking come. And, so again, it's just kind of like different phases depending on what are you trying to accomplish. And then maybe, then inviting a handful of those to come back and say, we enjoyed seeing you at the party. We'd love to have you come back and actually have a more authentic experience. Would you like to bring a +1 with you and come in for dinner? And we'd love to host you for that experience. So I think you can, there are different ways you can sort of get your influencers in multiple times, depending on how you roll out the campaign. I love that.
And by the way, I didn't mention money in any of that. Outside of the cost of food.
Right. What do you think, Zach, before we move on? I have a comment for you too. Somebody left you a comment.
Oh, good. I definitely think that, and I wanted to even ask on y'all's side of things too, just because in this day and age, I have 2 comedians on my list, for example, but in order for them to get into comedy clubs, they have to have their own kind of following these days. And so I'm thinking that for you guys too, it's like, I've seen a lot of people in the food industry specifically who are trying restaurants around Dallas, New York, wherever, you know what I mean, get first seats at some of these really large, you know, Michelin star restaurants, et cetera. And so do you guys think too, like on the PR side of things, that you also have to have some sort of audience, or, you know, if you're an editor, journalist, whatever, to even get placed in there outside of kind of what this person was saying, you know, I'm sending my media kit and doing all of this stuff, you know what I mean? But having your own audience already, does that matter at all?
I think so, but
Well, yeah,
Cynthia,
because are you saying, like, does the comedian have to have an audience for us to want
Well,
to
so
host him?
no, I was saying that my comedians in their industry specifically, they have to have an audience for them to even be invited to come to a comedy club, to know
Right.
that, hey, if I have so-and-so speak, they're going to bring their audience here.
Right.
So I was wondering the same thing, like, you know, on the PR side of things, are you guys looking at those, you know, food creators in a similar instance? It's like, oh, they have, you know, X amount of followers. We want them to push this out there. So they're bringing their people in. Or is it more just so they can, you know, brand awareness and push things out, if that makes sense?
I look at beyond followers, because sometimes there's Instagram or TikTok accounts that maybe they don't have as many as you would think, but their engagement is really high. It's like they've curated their community that follows them. And then I actually go and read the comments and see if people say, oh, I'm definitely going to check that out, or I'm coming. And I've found that sometimes those micro influencers will, like those people that are used to hearing from them and seeing them go to these places, they are very dedicated versus somebody that maybe I've seen accounts that had like 100, 200,000 followers, and they'll post something and it's like 0 likes. And it's like, oh, okay. So maybe you bought your followers or something like that. But I don't know. And that's funny because your question actually comes from here. So maybe Cynthia can answer, and then Zachary, you can piggyback too. But this person was saying the same thing. Does size really matter? And how do brands decide between working with a micro influencer who has deep engagement versus a macro influencer with massive reach? What metrics truly drive the most value, reach, relevance, or relationship? So that took us to our next question.
Yeah. I don't think that size matters at all. Actually, I look for high engagement, and a lot of my brand partners and PR agencies are always looking for high engagement. There's still a wave that brands working with micro and nano influencers are getting a bang for their buck at that point. Like, they love those kinds of creators because they're so, like, their engagement at that level is way higher than someone who has, you know, mega sized influencing and their engagement is not the best, but they get a ton of comments, they get a ton of, you know, shares, etc. And so size does not matter at all. It has everything to do with engagement, kind of what you were saying, Leah, like comments. Brands, they do go through your comments. They will literally do a whole audit of your entire page, and they will walk through and, you know, see, you know, if this is a bot, if this is a same influencer that's commented on the last 5 things that you've done, you know, or if this is a chat pod. So like, kind of even answering like the very, very first question, like this space is evolving to where people know and they recognize, you know, fake engagement. They're looking for the real engagement. Like, we're going to find it in some way, shape, or form, whether that's save numbers, share numbers, comments, like that's all going to prove more than a follower account for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I have sort of like a master database that I use, especially for our local accounts. And so inevitably every 2 or 3 months, you know, I have a different client who wants me to, you know, invite influencers to something. So I'm constantly updating this spreadsheet. And one of the things as I'm doing that is I'm updating follower count. And it's always like, I just always end up shaking my head because it's like, you know, oh, 2 months ago, this person had 40,000 followers. And now, wow, they've got 175,000. That's amazing. And you're like, girl, come on with the bot followers. I cannot. So to me, those numbers, like, it's so, I think 90% of what you're looking at is fake and purchased. And you can tell in the engagement, that's the dead giveaway. And now you can even buy likes and comments. But even if you look at the comments, you can tell what's real and what's not. I just think people need to stop with the, and I get it because you're trying to compete. And so you think you have to have the numbers to compete, but if you can't back it up with engagement, it doesn't really mean anything, and it just makes you look bad in the end. So frankly, I would rather work with somebody who has 20,000 followers and they're getting 200 and 300 likes on a post and 40 comments, and you can tell like this is real engagement. That person is far more valuable to me than another influencer who has 300,000 and gets and you can tell it's not real. So it's, so quit with the paid followers.
And I want to add to that too, because a lot of people think, oh, like I'll just go to a website and buy followers. No. Like even doing giveaways is buying followers. Like it just is. Like if you're giving me $200, if I really need that $200, I'm going to go do my giveaway and tag all these people. You know what I mean? But it's like, those people aren't following you for you. They're following you for the money, and they'll likely unfollow you later, which will also tank your engagement. You know what I mean? And so people don't think about the long-term aspects of this. Like people start getting a following and, they're like, well, I want to do hotel brands. Well, hotels only want to work with real influential people that have over 100,000 followers and above, like the bigger ones, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, like you say, 2 months later, this person has over 100,000 followers and now they want to work with this hotel again. It's like, you can't, it doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense. You have to make it make sense, So yes, I'm right there with you.
And I will say, Cynthia, I'll give you your flowers. We worked on a project together and yes, queen. And Cynthia had this amazing software that she was using, or this company that really just detailed and outlined everything out from placements to where you can actually see the engagement and things like that. So much so that I went out and I had to get a little cheaper version, but because it was so valuable. And so now I don't know if influencers know, like we can take your stuff and load it in and actually see for ourselves. So lying to the brand or over exaggerating your reach just doesn't work anymore when so many, especially if you're working with an agency or you're working with a larger firm where they have the software to see if you're actually getting what you're getting and if it matches those numbers that you're giving to us in a media kit. So it's just, it gets a little shaky and a little crazy.
And people get mad. They're like, why are they ghosting? Well, I'm like, you tell me. Sometimes I have a platform that pulls all of my creators' stats organically. And I've had to go through and let some people go because I'm like, I have to send these stats to the brand. Is this what I'm supposed to send them? And I'll share the report that I pull. You know what I'm saying? And it's not the same thing of what we were sharing with them. And it's like, at the end of the day, as a manager, I want to protect, our reputation and, at the end of the day, even the creator's reputation. So it's like, we need to figure out a way that is going to separate us. You know what I mean? So, no one gets upset at the end of the day.
No one gets upset. So I think what we've talked about a lot, but how can we create a better relationship between influencers and brands? I feel like there's a big divide. So where do we go from here? Is it that brands need to be prepared to get into, business dealings? I know sometimes if you get deep enough with influencers, there's contracts, there's agreements. You need to have budgets. Just where should we be headed in order to create better influencer marketing relations?
Well, I think it's realizing that content creators are going to ask for, and in many cases deserve to be compensated. And so I think on the client side, it's having those realistic client conversations and educating them as to, it's like your assumption that all these people are going to flood in for free. Let's revisit that because the industry has evolved and now here's where we are today. So let's come up with some budget that we can use to play with in this space. And then I think it's, I just worked with a client who had a store opening, and she told me that she wanted at least 40 influencers there. And I said, well, that's not going to happen because there,
Yeah.
there aren't even 40 influencers that are on my list for what we're doing. Like, it's not realistic. So,
And then that really means you got to invite like 80 to
right.
get the 40 there. So it's really 80 influencers.
I invited 132 and we had about 15. So, I mean,
Oh,
that's
Cynthia.
is because it's like, again, it's like, do you want to just go for mass numbers or do you want to go for like, who is a fit? And the people who are a fit are the people who showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just, I think it's trying on initially, it's up to us as the agencies to educate and help our clients set realistic expectations and say, if this is truly your goal, then we're going to need some budget to accomplish that goal.
Yeah.
And then on the influencer or the content creator side, I think it's, I feel like and Leah, I know you do as well. I'm always working to network and build my relationships with these people. And from their side, I would say, a publicist can be your best friend because I don't just have one client, I have many clients. And so while I may not have money with this thing, I am going to have money for this, and this. And so what I'm looking for are who are the people that I have these great relationships and partnerships with, because sometimes I need a favor over here and then it's going to pay off 2 months later because now I have budget and you did me a solid. So now I'm going to do you one back. It's those kind of things. Like it's a win-win. It's a partnership and it's a give and take.
Mm-hmm. I would say on the brand side of things, I want to encourage like the slow burn. Like, don't rush into influencer. And I know that everyone has goals and numbers and metrics, that they want to meet by a certain quarter. But I think, if you hire someone internally, making sure that they are obviously, they're able to do their job correctly and they know the space very well. Or if they hire out, that they're checking out, that agency specific stats and like the past campaigns that they've done, because I feel like sometimes even brands just give, you guys 60 grand and it's like, okay, well, we have 3 months to make this thing work. And then you're like running out of time and you just have to pay creators. And at the end of the day, the numbers are the numbers. And I've watched big brands and big agencies lose, accounts that way. And so I've seen a very successful campaign, obviously, with the suit supply thing. Adobe is another one of my partners that work with a lot of my creators. And that was a very slow burn. Like that probably took almost 8 months to develop something so solid. And I had to fly to New York, shake their hands, meet their team. And now we have such a good relationship. And now all of my creators that I was like, do this, please post about them organically. You use it organically. Now they're all being compensated for all of that. So it was a slow burn and it just took time. And I think on the creator side is just recognizing that we are in the world of social. So you have to be social and build community and real community. You know what I mean? Like digital followers are great, but real influencer, in my opinion, is you should be able to draw at least 10 people from your followers into a room at one time, 20 people, 30 people. You know what I'm saying? A group of people to be social, you know what I'm saying? Versus just, oh, I know my audience so well, as if it's just one general thing. It's like, I know exactly what these people are looking for, what videos perform well, etc. And if it's just gifting on the creator side, it's not a no. And that doesn't mean that the brand doesn't have money at all. It just means right now, that's the vetting period. To where you're making your first impression. If you make your first impression well and you just keep the stats with you, then you can continue to share that with them and then add on to it if you post about it organically later. So when they do have budget, kind of what we've all been saying, they're going to come back to you and be like, you've been posting about me for 3 months. Thank you so much. I now have 25 grand to pay you. The whole time, your whole work has just paid off. You know what I mean? And I've seen that work more times than me sending out hundreds of random emails to random people saying, I want to work with you. Here's why type situation. It's always the slow burn, long lasting relationships. And the last thing I'll say for creators too is like, don't shoot for like 10 brands that you want to work with. Like strategize between 5 to 10, like pick 5 to 10 brands that you organically use and go after them and target them and post about them nonstop. because that's what's going to get their attention versus posting about 30,000 brands and you don't even know which one you actually like. You know what I mean? Like that happens more often than you think. So,
and I will
that's
say
kind of where
they should be careful about that too, because I know as publicists, and maybe Cynthia has had a similar experience. If I see that, that's something that I tell my client where I'm like, we could, maybe the post initially will get great engagement, but tomorrow they're going to be posting about somebody else and perhaps somebody similar within that, you know, within your industry. Now, I do know there's contracts that the brand can have with the influencer to say like, we can you're going to exclusively post in our category. And you're not going to have another post that's like this in 30 days and stuff like that. But really, what small business can actually afford that, you know? So I know I do go out there and look for that where I'm like, it seems like every day they're posting something. I just don't know if we're going to stand out versus XYZ influencer, which maybe this is what they're known for. It seems like not only are they going to post in their feed, you'll be in their stories, you'll be here, here, and here. Let's go there. And to Cynthia's point, sometimes I'm just given the bucket of money and they're like, distribute it how you see fit. If you want to give it all to one influencer, great. If you want to split it between 5, that's great. And I'm going to go with the person who I feel is more well connected with the brand. So that's
yeah. And I want to kind of backtrack on kind of what I said is more like organically posting. And organically posting, everyone thinks, you know, it's just, you know, an ad for themselves. And it's really not. It's just a way that's the brand is featured for like 3 seconds. So if you're drinking eternal water, you drink it in your video while you're telling your story, you're holding it, and then you set it down. Like to me, that's perfect marketing right there. You know what I'm saying? And I can take that video and share it with the Eternal Water team and say, hey, this was featured here. This video saw 20,000 people. And so that's kind of what I mean is like, I don't want to see an individual, you know, gifted unboxing video for that specific person. I don't want to see that. Nobody actually wants to see that, you know? Yeah. But we want to see, you know, how you actually used it organically. I don't even want to notice, you know what I mean, that it was gifted. Actually, I would just want to see how you actually used it. So, and there are so many good creators that do that well. I applaud them every time I see it. It's so good.
Yeah. And to your point, Zach, I think with the water, I think it's a great example of something that we're looking to do. When I talk about, you know, I'm not interested necessarily in just a one-off post, but it's like, how can we create an ongoing partnership to where, you know, we're going to send you cases of water and you just work it into your everyday. So if you're showing yourself, you know, doing a new workout and there's a bottle of water next to you on the mat, if it's you're out by the pool and that's what you're drinking, it's like show that this is truly a brand that you engage with, that is a part of your life. I feel like that kind of, you know, that sort of authentic engagement is really what we're looking for outside of the just like, you know, I'm so excited to have partnered with Coca-Cola, you know, it's like, whatever.
Yes. And one last thing, because you just said something really good too. It's that stuff turns into long-term partnerships, and to even get partnerships for Q3, Q4, like back in the day, they used to just throw all this money at Q3, Q4. But now it's who do we like from Q1, Q2 that I know can drive my numbers for Q3 and end of the year Q4. And like November, December can be silent for some creators. And I was there. It was a cold winter last winter. You know what I mean? Because our Q1, Q2 performance for some of our creators didn't translate into what we wanted for Q3, Q4. So I tell everyone Q1, Q2, you're gifting, you're performing well, you're doing all this stuff to get all of the return come Q3, Q4. Because now is when they're booking for holiday, those big partnerships.
I wanted to, before we wrap, I wanted to read this last comment I saw on Threads and get y'all's take. So we'll start with Cynthia, then we'll go with you, Zach. I had so many to choose from because it was like influencers going wild or content creators going wild complaining. So here's one. I'm just going to call her from Mrs. M. PR agencies and restaurants. If you invite influencers to an unpaid meal collab, you should cover our tip. And she put that in all caps. Oh. These meals are expensive, and 25% of a $200 meal is $50. So now I'm paying to work. And don't come at us with you're getting paid with a free meal in this economy. I can cook a meal at home for less than $50 and not have to spend the entire time trying to capture the light and the best angle. And then it went viral.
Wow.
So, Cynthia.
Well, I'm going to keep sending her my invitation that says, please, well, we're happy to host your experience. Please cover 20% gratuity for your server. And she don't have to come if she doesn't want to. But that is the standard offer. Listen, I mean, you shouldn't have to come. Don't come. Stay at home. Eat your rotisserie chicken and mac and cheese. Enjoy.
Yeah, make content with that.
Yeah, have fun making content with that. You don't have to come to the brand new hot steakhouse. And yeah, that's okay. If it's not for you, girl, don't come.
I personally would not have someone like that on my roster. I like to work with people who are grateful, for the experience to even come and try out. Like, that's something that we have, really been absent of in this influencer world, is just the world of gratitude of like, you get to come out try a brand new restaurant where the masses don't get to for free. Where it's like, if you can run up a $200 tab, you can pay a service fee. Like, and it's not even the service fee to the restaurant, it's the service fee to the person that was serving you the whole night, dealing with you, taking photos all night long, causing a scene. Because, once things are going, drinks are flowing, like, you're having a good time at this place. And so that just goes back to what we were saying this whole time. It's like, there's a difference between the people who want to work and want to do the best that they ever could for a brand, that are seeing the return in revenue, versus someone that's just, feels like they are deserving of this kind of, experience, which in reality, there are more people who would be more than happy to be there,
I also think these people, like, they're working off the assumption that there's money to be spent and they're just not spending it on me and I'm not happy about it. The reality is that most of, at least my clients, these are small businesses working on a shoestring marketing budget. And we're just trying to wring every bit of exposure and publicity and buzz that we can. And if what they have to offer is a hosted meal, then you can say it's a fit for you or not. That's okay. But it's like, I wouldn't take it as a personal insult that, like, because it's not like we're spending 10 grand over here and just not giving any to you. It's like, there usually is, none of that being spent anywhere for a small business. They're just trying to make something happen. Mm-hmm. So, I think you just have to, I mean, again, are we talking about a large brand who probably has a, six-figure plus marketing budget? Or are we talking about a man who has mortgaged his house to, like, open a bar because that was his dream? And he's just like two very different scenarios here. So I think you just have to take it into, the context of, like, what is the situation?
Right. And know your audience.
I think too is, like, from our perspective, I didn't ask you to bring all the lighting and the tripods and to make 100 edits. I didn't. When I reached out to you, I never dictated to you what content, how to do the content, or what was asked. I just sent you an invite to come try out the food. And so the assumption when I was reading that, I was like, maybe there are people that reach out and say, post this on TikTok or whatever. But for a lot of us, it's like, hey, just come try it out. We're not telling you how to try it out. We're not telling you how to post, when to post, where to post. We may make suggestions. Like, if you do, here are the tags, but we're not telling you to sit at home for 2 hours afterwards and create, several reels, one for TikTok, one for IG, and one for over here. So that's another, like, assumption where I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I think on the content creator side, I would just look at it as an opportunity where it's like, I'm, when I attend an event, I'm just trying to, if I accept the invitation, I want to do the best job I can, because if you go to my channel and my on fire, I'm going to get money from somebody else if it's not you. So I'm just always looking for ways to create, organic content that's a fit for me, do a great job with what I put out, because I know the money will come. Some people have it and others don't. There's value to be had in any partnership. It's just where do you see the value? And I think it's leveraging.
Amen, Cynthia.
It's leveraging the value that you're being offered and then saying, how can I use this opportunity to my advantage? It may not be in the moment, but it'll be down the road.
I like what you said earlier, Cynthia, of like, I might not have something paid now, but because I work with so many people, I have access to all of these other people. And you are so right about that. And I, as a manager, like I think about it, but I don't at the same time because I deal with people who have specific accounts. But like, you're right. It's like, it's so well-rounded. And it's like, that is the beauty of the community that you guys get to build with creators and vice versa, us with you guys, you know? I tell everyone, like, our industry is solely relationship driven. Like, it just really is. It's all about relationships and who you know, and like being kind to like one another will get you into the next door. Yeah. Being willing to listen, being willing to learn, you know, like that's what's going to get you to the next place. You know what I'm saying? And you're right. Like, evaluate it. If it's not worth your time and your value, then that's okay. You know, it's not a personal dig at whatsoever. We all just want to have a good time at the end of the day and, you know, do our jobs well. So I think that was really
I'd rather somebody decline the invitation if they don't feel like it's a fit for them than to say yes and come and bring your attitude with you. So if it's not a fit, just don't come.
Right.
And I'm with Cynthia too, just piggyback on that as well. You just never know who knows what or what they'll get down the line. I just want to shout them out. I love the husband and wife team with Dallas Party of Two. They are just fantastic human beings. And something came up recently where it was like, hey, we had somebody drop out of the show for CW. We need somebody to come in and talk about like family friendly things to do in Dallas or something. And they just popped up in my head. And I was like, oh, I know this great couple, looped them in. And now tomorrow they're taping at CW. And they were just so grateful. But I've had them on paid things. I've had them on things where I'm like, hey, just come check it out. But it was, to Cynthia's point, we've built a relationship to where when I have it, they know they got it, you know, or if something comes up, they're first of mind because they're just so great to work with. And it never was about, you know, pay me, and that's not enough. And the snarkiness that I just read to you guys, it really is it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And I also respect them as a business as well.
Yeah, it's that do what you love and the money will follow. And I think those are the kind of partnerships I'm looking for, is like, I want to work with people who are excited about what they do. And they're always trying to put out like unique and fun and authentic content. And, you know, whether I can pay them with a free steak meal or I can pay them with cash or I can pay them with a trip, like, you know, whatever I have to offer, those are, you know, I'm gonna serve up to you what I have to give, and sometimes it's a fit and sometimes not. And like you said, the slow burn. Sometimes I might not have it in the beginning, and then it comes later. So you just never know. And I think it's really ultimately it's just about creating these relationships that will benefit you in the long run.
I love that. Well, we have been on here way longer than I anticipated, and to be quite frank,
so much to talk about.
There's still more. There's still more. It's like we needed a part 1, part 2, part 3. But I think this was like incredibly valuable. So before we close, if there's one last thing you guys just want to get off your chest, go ahead, and then also close out with where people can follow you.
I just want to say I feel really blessed that we live in Dallas, Texas. I think we have a fantastic creator community here. Not only is it a very deep pool of people to work with, but just really good people who are passionate about what they do and excited to, you know, to be doing it. And I feel like we're blessed to have a wide variety of people who are really focused on all different kinds of genres and interest, and it makes our job easier. So I feel blessed to be here and have the relationships that we have. If you're interested in following me, I am at Gangway ADV for Gangway Advertising personally, and also Cynthia personally.
Incredible. Also, just so grateful to be here as well. I think for me, I'm just kind of like breaking into the Dallas space. I know I grew up here and I went to school here and everything, but a part of me wanted to be in New York, and now God was like, we want you in Dallas. So I was like, okay. If
but did you just come back from New York?
I did, but it was for like a quick birthday trip. But ever since I've just kind of given over the reins, like everything, doors have just been flying open. I got to be even reconnected with you, Leah, which was incredible. Someone that was like from when I was super young, 22 years old, you know what I mean? To like now just seeing like where I am, I just appreciate that. And so I'm always here for any content creator or brand who wants to talk anything influencer marketing. I don't charge for my time. I think that it's just important to give back. And so you can follow me, Zach Wilson 15. Send me a DM if you have any questions. I'm always happy to answer. And that goes for anybody.
Zach, I just think that goes to show between you and Leah that relationships are so important and you never know where they're going to lead.
Yeah, exactly.
Never,
Incredible.
ever.
Thanks for having us, Leah.
Thank you guys. I'll see you later. And there you have it, another candid discussion between myself, Cynthia Smoot, and bringing in Zach Wilson into the fold as we discuss all things influencer marketing from here, 2025 and beyond. If you have questions about what we talked about, or if you have commentary, please go out to PR Yourself Podcast. Send me a message. We will be posting clips of the podcast there. We would love your feedback. If you like this episode, please share it out. You know what to do. You're going to like, you're going to comment, you're going to share. You're going to rate and review us. I saw some new reviews out there and I'm so excited on some of our other platforms. If you listen on Apple, we definitely need to boost our Apple ratings. So go ahead and leave us a review. Let us know what you think. And if this podcast is helping you out, if you have podcast episode suggestions, go out to PR Yourself with LeahFrazier.com. Send me a message through the contact form or through my DMs at PR Yourself Podcast on Instagram. And you know what to do. You're going to keep it locked in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel as we discover more issues in PR to uncover. But until then, you know what to do. Until next time.